Admiral Kethvar stood before the massive viewing screen in the command center of the Zephyrian warship. His 6 eyes focused on the blue and green planet that slowly turned in front of them. Earth looked so peaceful from this distance, so helpless. "Admiral, the final reports are ready," said Commander Zixtal, his second in command. She handed him a glowing data crystal. Kethvar inserted the crystal into his personal reader. Numbers and images filled the small screen. He had been waiting for this moment for 3 months. His scout ships had been watching this planet called Earth for that long. Now he would finally know if the humans were worth conquering. The first page made him smile. Population, 7 billion. Good. That meant plenty of workers for the mines. The Zephyrian Empire always needed more workers. He scrolled to the next section. Technology level. This was what mattered most. If the humans had powerful weapons, the invasion would cost too much. If they were weak, it would be easy. The report said the humans were very weak. They had no energy shields at all. Their biggest weapons were something called nuclear bombs. But these were huge and slow. The humans had to carry them in flying, machines that moved slower than a Zephyrian child could run. Kethvar laughed. Nuclear weapons were what his own people had used 5,000 years ago, back when they were still learning to fight. The humans were like babies playing with toys. "Look at this," he said to Commander Zixtal. "They shoot metal bullets from tubes. Metal bullets, not even energy bolts." Zixtal looked at the screen. "Are you sure this is right, Admiral?" "Metal. Bullets?" The scouts checked 3 times. The humans take pieces of metal and use explosions to throw them at their enemies. Their biggest war machines are just bigger tubes that throw bigger pieces of metal. The report showed pictures of human tanks and jets. To Zephyrian eyes, they looked like crude toys made by children. The tanks were just metal boxes with metal tubes sticking out. The jets were metal birds with no energy weapons at all. Kethvar kept reading. The humans had tried to visit other planets, but they could only reach their own moon. It took them 3 days to get there using chemical rockets. Chemical rockets. The Zephyrians could travel between stars in less time. "Admiral," said Zixtal, "what about their space defenses?" Kethvar checked that section. "They have a few small stations in orbit. No weapons, no shields. We could destroy them all in minutes." The more he read, the happier he became. The humans had no faster-than-light travel. They had no plasma weapons. They had no force fields. They were still using radio waves to talk to each other across distances. But the best part was their military organization. The report showed that humans were not united. They had split themselves into almost 200 different groups called countries. These countries fought each other all the time. Some had bigger armies, some had smaller ones. None of them worked together. They fight each other more than they fight anyone else. Kethvar told his commander, "Even now, there are small wars happening on their planet. They waste their energy fighting themselves." Commander Zixtal tilted her head. That seemed strange. "Why would they fight their own kind?" "Because they are primitive," Kethvar said. "Smart species learn to work together. Dumb species keep fighting until someone stronger comes along." He closed the report and looked at the planet again. Earth had good water, good air, and useful metals. The humans seemed to have built many cities, which meant they could work hard when properly directed. Once the Zephyrian Empire took control, those 7 billion humans would make excellent workers. The best part was how easy it would. True, the Zephyrian Empire had conquered 47 star systems. Some of those conquests had been difficult. The Krill had energy shields almost as good as Zephyrian ones. The Vorthon had fought for 6 months before surrendering. The crystal beings of Nexus Prime had destroyed 12 Zephyrian ships before, finally losing. But humans would surrender in days, maybe hours. Kethvar called up the tactical display. His fleet had 12 Dreadnought-class warships. Each ship was 3 kilometers long and carried enough firepower to crack a moon. Each ship held over 4,000 Zephyrian warriors. 12 ships would be more than enough. Actually, it might be too much, but the War Council back home wanted to make sure this conquest went smoothly. Earth was far from the main empire, and supply lines would be long, better to win quickly than to fight a long war. Set course for the third planet, Kethavar ordered. All ships prepare for standard invasion protocol. The bridge crew began working at their stations. Lights blinked as the massive warships turned toward Earth. Their dark matter engines hummed with power. Kethavar felt proud. In a few days, he would add another world to the great Zephyrian Empire. The Emperor would be pleased. Kethavar might even get a promotion. He looked at Earth one more time. Such a pretty little planet. Soon, it would have a new flag flying over it. The flag of the Zephyrian Empire. Just like 47 other worlds. The humans down there had no idea what was coming. They were probably going about their daily lives, working in their cities, flying in their primitive machines, fighting their little wars with metal bullets. In a few hours, they would learn that they were no longer alone in the universe. They would learn that there were bigger, stronger, smarter species out there. Most importantly, they would learn their place in the galaxy, as servants of the Zephyrian Empire. Admiral Kethavar smiled and gave the order to begin the attack. The Zephyrian fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. 12 massive warships appeared in space like dark metal mountains. Each ship was longer than the biggest human city and bristled with weapons that could melt planets. Admiral Kethavar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Crushing Tide. Through the viewing screen, he could see the small yellow star that the humans called Sol. Somewhere around that star was Earth, waiting to be conquered. "Admiral, we are receiving many signals from the third planet," reported the communications officer. "The humans are talking to each other constantly." "Good," Kethavar said. "That means they have seen us. Begin broadcasting the surrender message." The communications officer pressed several buttons. A message began transmitting toward Earth in what the Zephyrian computers thought was the human language. The message was simple: surrender now or be destroyed. Kethavar expected an answer within hours. Most species responded quickly when they saw Zephyrian warships. They usually begged for mercy or tried to negotiate. A few tried to run away. None had ever done what the humans did. "Admiral," the communications officer said after 2 hours, "we are receiving responses." "Excellent. Are they surrendering?" The communications officer looked confused. "I'm not sure, sir. We are getting answers in many different languages. Our computers cannot translate all of them." Kethavar frowned. "How many languages?" "Over 300 so far, sir. And they keep sending more." This was strange. Most planets had 1 or 2 main languages. Smart species learned to speak the same way. Why did humans have so many different ways to talk? What are they saying in the languages we can translate? The communications officer looked embarrassed. "Sir, many of the messages contain words that our computers mark as insults. Very creative insults." Kethavar's eyes narrowed. "They are insulting us." "Yes, sir. Some humans are asking us to perform impossible physical acts. Others are comparing us to various animal body parts. One message just says the word no repeated 5,000 times. This was not going as planned. When the Zephyrians had arrived at other planets, the inhabitants had either surrendered immediately or asked for time to consider. None had sent insults. "Sir," another officer called out, "we are detecting movement on the planet. Many objects are launching from the surface." Kethavar looked at the tactical display. Hundreds of small dots were rising from Earth toward his fleet. The computer analyzed them and displayed the results. "Chemical rockets," Kethavar read aloud. "Carrying nuclear warheads." Commander Zixtel stepped beside him. "Should we be concerned, Admiral?" Kethavar almost laughed. "Nuclear weapons cannot penetrate our shields. Even if all of them hit us, they would barely scratch our paint." But something bothered him. Why were the humans launching missiles they knew could not hurt the Zephyrian ships? It made no sense. Either the humans were too stupid to understand how outmatched they were, or they were crazy. "Admiral, should we destroy the incoming missiles?" asked the weapons officer. "No," Kethavar decided. "Let them hit us. When the humans see that their strongest weapons cannot hurt us, they will surrender faster." The first wave of human missiles reached the Zephyrian fleet after 6 hours. The nuclear warheads exploded against the energy shields in bright flashes of light and radiation. The shields held easily. The explosions looked like tiny fireworks against the massive alien ships, but instead of stopping, more missiles kept coming, and more. The humans seemed to be launching everything they had. "How many missiles have they fired?" Kethvar asked. "Over 2,000, sir, and they are still launching more." Kethvar stared at the tactical display. Where were the humans getting all these weapons? The scouts had reported that Earth's nuclear arsenal was limited, yet the missiles kept coming. "Sir," the communications officer said, "we are receiving a transmission on an old frequency. It appears to be from one of their space stations." "Put it on screen." The viewing screen flickered and showed a human face. The human appeared to be an older male with gray hair and wrinkled skin. He was wearing some kind of uniform. "This is Admiral Morrison of the International Space Station," the human said. "To whoever you are, you picked the wrong planet to mess with." Kethvar stepped forward. "Human, I am Admiral Kethvar of the Zephyrian Empire. Your weapons cannot harm us. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick." The human named Morrison actually smiled. "Deaths will be quick. Yeah, that's probably true, but not ours." The transmission ended. A moment later, the space station exploded. But it was not destroyed by weapons. The humans had blown it up themselves. "Why did they do that?" Commander Zixtal asked. Kethvar had no answer. The humans had destroyed their own space station rather than let it be captured. This was not normal behavior for a species facing conquest. "Admiral," the tactical officer called out, "the missile attacks are increasing. They have launched over 5,000 weapons now. That is impossible. Our scouts said they did not have that many nuclear weapons." "Sir, the computer analysis shows that many of these missiles are not military weapons. Some appear to be civilian rockets with nuclear power plants attached. Others seem to be made from pieces of their spacecraft." Kethvar stared at the reports. The humans were taking apart their own technology and turning it into weapons. They were pulling nuclear reactors out of their power plants and strapping them to rockets. They were probably emptying their nuclear submarines and missile silos too. "How long until we reach their planet?" he asked. 14 hours at current speed, sir. Increase speed. I want this over quickly." But as the Zephyrian fleet moved toward Earth, the missile attacks got worse. The humans seemed to have an endless supply of nuclear weapons. They were launching them from every continent, from submarines under the oceans and from hidden bases. Most disturbing of all, the explosions were getting bigger. The humans were not just launching single warheads anymore. They were strapping multiple nuclear bombs together and making larger explosions. "Admiral," the weapons officer said nervously, "the latest explosion measured 50 times larger than their early weapons. If they keep increasing the size, our shields will hold," Kethvar said firmly. But privately, he was beginning to worry, not about the shields failing, but about what kind of species would turn their entire planet into a weapon rather than surrender. The Zephyrians had conquered many worlds, but they had never faced anything like this. Most species tried to preserve their civilization when facing a stronger enemy. The humans seemed ready to destroy everything, including themselves, just to fight back. As Earth grew larger on the viewing screen, Admiral Kethvar began to wonder if the scouts had missed something important about these strange creatures called humans. The Zephyrian fleet reached Earth's orbit after 18 hours of constant missile attacks. Admiral Kethvar looked down at the blue planet through the viewing screen. From space, it looked peaceful and quiet, but he knew better now. The humans had launched over 8,000 nuclear weapons at his ships. "Begin the planetary assault," Kethvar ordered. "Target their major cities first. Once their centers of power are destroyed, they will surrender." The 12 Zephyrian warships spread out around the planet. Each ship picked a different continent to attack. Bright beams of plasma energy shot down from space, striking the biggest human cities. New York was the first to burn. The plasma beams turned skyscrapers into melted metal. London followed, then Tokyo, then Moscow. One by one, the great human cities began to die under the alien attack. Kethavar watched the destruction on his tactical screen. Each red dot represented a burning city. This was how conquest always worked. Destroy the important places, and the species would give up. "Admiral," the communications officer reported, "we are receiving surrender messages from some human governments." "Good. How many?" "3 so far, sir. But we are also receiving messages from other human groups saying they will never surrender." Kethavar frowned. "What do you mean, other groups?" "Sir, it appears that even when their governments surrender, many humans are refusing to stop fighting. They say their governments do not speak for them." This was confusing. In every other conquest, when the government surrendered, the whole planet surrendered. How could parts of a species keep fighting when their leaders had given up? "Sir," another officer called out, "we are detecting weapons fire from the planet's surface. The humans are shooting at our landing ships." Kethavar looked at the tactical display. Red dots showed where Zephyrian troops were trying to land. Yellow flashes showed where humans were attacking them. There were yellow flashes everywhere. "What kind of weapons are they using?" "Many different types, sir. Some are using their military weapons, but others seem to be using civilian equipment modified for combat." The tactical officer brought up detailed scans. "Sir, one group of humans has taken farming equipment and attached metal spikes to it. Another group is using construction machines as weapons. In one city, humans are throwing bottles filled with burning liquid." Kethavar stared at the reports. The humans were turning everything into weapons. Not just military equipment, but farm tools, construction machines, even bottles and rocks. "How effective are these improvised weapons?" "Against our armor, not very effective, sir, but they are slowing our advance." "And sir?" The officer hesitated. "The humans are not retreating when they take casualties." "What do you mean?" "Normal species retreat when they lose 10 or 15% of their fighters. The humans keep fighting even when they lose 50%. Some groups have lost 70% and are still attacking." Commander Zixtal looked worried. "Admiral, this is not normal behavior. Most intelligent species value their lives." Reports kept coming in from the ground forces. The humans were fighting in ways that made no sense. They hid in sewers and attacked from below. They climbed inside buildings and shot from windows. When Zephyrian troops destroyed a building, humans crawled out of the rubble and kept fighting. "Sir," the communications officer said, "we are receiving a transmission from Captain Mortek on the surface. Put him through." The screen showed a Zephyrian officer in battle armor. Behind him, smoke rose from burning human buildings. "Admiral, the humans are behaving strangely." "Explain." "Sir, we destroyed their military base in this area 6 hours ago. We thought resistance would end, but civilians keep attacking us. Old humans, young humans, even human children are throwing explosives at our troops." Kethavar felt a chill run through his body. "Did you say children?" "Yes, sir. Human offspring, barely old enough to walk, are being used to carry explosive devices. The adult humans send their young into battle. This was wrong. Every civilized species protected their young. Using children as weapons was something only the most savage creatures did. There is more, Admiral," Captain Mortek continued. "The humans have started taking apart our equipment. When we leave damaged vehicles behind, they strip them for parts. Yesterday, a group of humans built a crude copy of our plasma rifle using parts from a destroyed tank and pieces from their cooking appliances. That is impossible. Our technology is thousands of years more advanced than theirs." "I have the weapon. Here, sir." The captain held up a strange device that looked like Zephyrian technology mixed with human metal parts. "It works. Not as well as our weapons, but it works. The humans who built it were not engineers or scientists. They were mechanics who repaired their transportation vehicles." Kethavar stared at the crude weapon. How could primitive humans reverse engineer Zephyrian technology in days? It had taken the Zephyrians centuries to develop plasma weapons. More reports arrived from other continents. In Australia, humans had used captured alien metal to build better armor for their vehicles. In South America, they had figured out how to recharge Zephyrian energy cells using their electrical power plants. In Africa, they had taken apart a crashed Zephyrian fighter and were building copies of its engines. "Admiral," Commander Zixtal said quietly, "perhaps we should request reinforcements." Kethvar wanted to refuse. 12 dreadnoughts should be enough to conquer any primitive planet. But the reports from the surface were getting worse. The humans were not fighting like any species the Zephyrians had ever encountered. They did not surrender when their leaders died. They did not retreat when their cities burned. They adapted to new weapons faster than should be possible. Worst of all, they seemed to enjoy fighting. Intercepted human communications showed them making jokes while under attack. Some were actually excited about fighting aliens. They called it the best day ever, and finally something interesting. "Sir," the tactical officer announced, "the humans have launched another wave of missiles from their planet's surface. But these are different." "Different how?" "Sir, some of them appear to be powered by our own technology. The humans have reverse-engineered our power cells and attached them to their rockets." Kethvar watched the new missiles rise from Earth. They moved faster than the earlier human weapons, much faster. "Shields to maximum," he ordered. The hybrid, human-alien missiles struck the Zephyrian fleet. The shields held, but the impacts were stronger than before. The humans were learning. They were adapting. They were getting better at fighting. For the first time since arriving at Earth, Admiral Kethvar began to wonder if 12 ships would be enough. The humans were supposed to be primitive and weak. Instead, they were proving to be the most stubborn and creative enemy the Zephyrian Empire had ever faced. On the viewing screen, Earth continued to burn. But the fires were not just from Zephyrian weapons anymore. The humans were setting their own cities on fire to deny the aliens anything useful. They would rather destroy everything than let their enemy have it. Kethvar realized he was not conquering Earth. He was fighting a war. 3 months had passed since the Zephyrian fleet arrived at Earth. Admiral Kethvar stood in his command center, looking at reports that made no sense. His 12 dreadnoughts were still in orbit, but they were no longer the mighty conquerors they had been when they arrived. The humans had shot down 47 Zephyrian landing craft. They had destroyed 6 fighter squadrons. Most shocking of all, they had managed to damage 2 of the dreadnoughts using weapons built from scrap metal and alien technology. "Admiral," Commander Zixtal said, approaching with another data pad, "the latest casualty reports from the surface." Kethvar read the numbers and felt sick. In 3 months of fighting, the Zephyrian ground forces had lost 18,000 troops. That was more than they had lost in the conquest of the previous 5 planets combined. "How is this possible?" he asked. "We have better weapons, better armor, better everything." "Sir, the humans are not fighting like any species we have encountered before. Our tactical computers cannot predict their behavior." Kethvar pulled up the intercepted human communications on his screen. For weeks he had been studying these messages, trying to understand how the humans thought. What he found disturbed him more each day. The humans called this invasion World War III. But as Kethvar studied their history files, he realized something terrible. The humans had fought 2 previous world wars against each other. The second one had killed over 70 million humans, 70 million dead in a single war, and they had fought it using primitive weapons, chemical bullets and metal bombs. If they could kill 70 million of each other with simple technology, what could they do with alien weapons? "Commander," Kethvar said slowly, "bring up the human history files again." The data appeared on screen. Kethvar scrolled through centuries of human conflicts. The humans had been fighting wars constantly for thousands of years. They had fought with sticks and stones, then metal swords, then chemical explosives, then nuclear weapons. They had never stopped fighting, but that was not the worst part. The worst part was that the humans were still divided. Even while fighting the Zephyrian invasion, they continued their own conflicts. Some human countries were helping others, but many were still arguing about borders and resources. "Sir," Zixtal said, reading over his shoulder, "are you saying the humans are not even united against us? Look at this." Kethvar pointed to a recent communication intercept. "This human military leader is complaining that another human country is not sending enough weapons to help fight us. They are fighting us while still fighting each other. The implications hit him like a physical blow. The Zephyrian Empire was being fought to a standstill by a species that was not even trying its hardest. The humans were treating the alien invasion like just another war, not even their biggest one. Kethvar pulled up more files. The humans had over 200 different countries. Each country had its own army. Some countries had armies bigger than the entire Zephyrian invasion force. And most of these armies were not even fighting the aliens yet. "Computer," he said, "calculate the total military strength of all human nations combined." The computer worked for several minutes. When the answer appeared, Kethvar stared at it in horror. The humans had over 70 million active soldiers. They had tens of thousands of tanks, aircraft, and ships. They had enough nuclear weapons to destroy their own planet several times over. And most of this military force was not even being used against the Zephyrians. "This cannot be correct," Commander Zixtal said. "Our scouts reported that humans were primitive." "The scouts were wrong," Kethvar said grimly. "They saw humans fighting with simple weapons and assumed that was all they had. But humans fight wars with whatever weapons are available. In some places, they use nuclear weapons. In other places, they use rocks. It does not matter to them." He pulled up another file. "Look at this battle report from the Australian continent. A group of human farmers held off our best assault unit for 6 days using hunting rifles and homemade explosives. When they ran out of bullets, they attacked our soldiers with sharp sticks. And they won. They fought until every human was dead. Not one of them surrendered. Our troops had to call for air support to defeat 37 human farmers." Kethvar continued, reading. "In North America, human children had built bombs using chemistry knowledge from their schools. In Europe, elderly humans were teaching resistance fighters how to make weapons from household items. In Asia, human engineers had successfully copied Zephyrian shield technology using computer parts and car batteries. The most disturbing report came from South America. A group of humans had captured a Zephyrian supply ship and were now using it to attack other Zephyrian positions. They had learned to fly alien technology in 2 weeks. "Admiral," the communications officer called out, "we are receiving a message from the High Command." Kethvar's body went cold. The High Command only contacted field commanders when something was very wrong. "Put it through." The screen showed Supreme Admiral Vorkath, the highest military leader of the Zephyrian Empire. His expression was not pleased. "Admiral Kethvar," Vorkath said, "explain to me why you have been fighting primitive humans for 3 months without achieving victory." "Supreme Admiral, the humans are more resilient than expected. They do not follow normal patterns of behavior for a conquered species." "Are you telling me that 12 dreadnoughts cannot defeat a planet of primitives?" Kethvar wanted to explain about human psychology, about their endless wars, about their refusal to surrender, but he knew how it would sound. "Sir, I request additional ships and troops." "Additional ships?" Vorkath's voice was dangerous. "You already have enough firepower to destroy 10 planets. What could you possibly need more ships for?" "Sir, the humans are not like other species. They adapt very quickly. They turn everything into weapons. They do not care about casualties. Enough," Vorkath cut him off. "You have 1 week to finish this conquest. If you cannot defeat primitive humans with 12 dreadnoughts, perhaps you are not fit to command them." The transmission ended. Kethvar stared at the dark screen, knowing his career was over if he failed. But more than that, he was beginning to suspect that 12 dreadnoughts might not be enough, might never be enough. He looked at Earth through the viewing screen. The planet was covered in fires and smoke from months of fighting, but the humans were still fighting, still adapting, still refusing to give up. For the first time since becoming an admiral, Kethvar wondered if the Zephyrian Empire had made a mistake. Not a tactical mistake or a strategic mistake, but a fundamental error in understanding what they were fighting. The humans were not just another primitive species to be conquered. They were something else entirely, something that made war into an art form. Admiral Kethvar could not sleep. For 4 days since the Supreme Admiral's ultimatum, he had been searching through the Zephyrian Empire's databases, looking for any information that might help him understand humans. What he found changed everything. Late. At night, alone in his private quarters, Kethvar accessed the most classified files in the Imperial database. These were files that only the highest admirals could read. Files about species that were too dangerous to fight. The search results made his blood freeze. File designation Sol 3. Classification Extreme Quarantine. Species Human. Status Do Not Engage. Kethvar stared at the screen. Quarantine? Do not engage? But the Empire had sent him here to conquer Earth. How could there be files saying not to fight humans? He opened the file with shaking hands. The first page was a warning in bright red letters. Any military action against Sol 3 requires approval from the Imperial Council and the Emperor himself. Previous contact attempts have resulted in catastrophic losses. Previous contact attempts? Kethvar scrolled down quickly. The file contained reports from 17 different alien species. All of them had tried to attack or conquer Earth. All of them had failed. The first report was from the Krill Federation, dated 200 years ago. Kethvar knew the Krill. They were powerful warriors with energy weapons almost as good as Zephyrian technology. Their report was brief. Attempted conquest of Sol 3 terminated after 67% fleet losses. Humans demonstrated weaponization of stellar debris and orbital mechanics. Recommend immediate species reclassification to extinction-level threat. The second report came from the Machine Collective, mechanical beings who had conquered 12 galaxies. Their final transmission was even shorter. Humans have reprogrammed our own units against us. They are turning our technology into weapons faster than we can replace it. This species is incompatible with logical conquest parameters. Withdrawal. Complete. Kethvar read report after report. The crystal beings of Altair Prime had tried to conquer Earth and lost their entire fleet when humans figured out how to disrupt their molecular structure using modified radio waves. The gas cloud entities from the Vega system had attempted invasion and been driven off when humans learned to weaponize their own atmosphere against them. But the worst report came from a species Kethvar had only heard whispers about. The Devourers. The Devourers were the monsters that haunted the nightmares of every spacefaring race. They were ancient machines that consumed entire civilizations, leaving behind empty worlds. They had eaten the populations of over 3,000 planets. Nothing could stop them. Nothing could fight them, except humans. The Devourer report was 12,000 years old. Kethvar read it with growing horror. Initial assessment. Sol 3 inhabitants, primitive but numerous. Expected consumption time, 47 solar cycles. Actual result. Total mission failure. Human adaptation rate exceeds all known parameters. Species demonstrates ability to weaponize planetary climate, geological processes, and biological systems against invaders. The report continued, humans have modified their own genetic structure to survive our consumption process. They have turned their planet's ice age into a weapon against us. Most disturbing, they appear to enjoy the challenge of fighting an extinction-level threat. Recommend immediate reclassification from food source to existential danger. The final line of the Devourer report made Kethvar's hands shake. Note: 12,000 years later, human civilization not only survived, but grew stronger. This species evolves through conflict. They become more dangerous when threatened. Kethvar closed the file and opened another. This one was marked Galactic Council Resolution 2847, the Sol System Accords. The accords were signed by every major spacefaring civilization in the galaxy. The agreement was simple. No one attacks Earth. Ever. Any species that violated the accords would be cut off from all galactic trade and communication. But why had no one told him about this before the invasion? Kethvar accessed his own mission, files, and found the answer. The orders to attack Earth had come directly from the Emperor's office, bypassing all normal military channels. Someone had deliberately hidden the quarantine files from the invasion force. A soft alarm chimed in his quarters. "Admiral," came the voice of his communications officer. "We are receiving an urgent transmission from the surface. Kethvar returned to the bridge. On the main screen appeared Captain Mortek, the ground force commander. Behind him, explosions lit up the sky. "Admiral, we have a problem. The humans have broken through our perimeter around their capital city." "How many humans?" "That is the problem, sir. We estimate over 2 million human fighters are advancing on our positions." "But sir, these are not soldiers." Kethvar frowned. "What do you mean?" "Sir, they appear to be civilians, office workers, teachers, shopkeepers, even children, but they all have weapons. Some military, some improvised, some that we cannot identify." On the screen behind Captain Mortek, Kethvar could see the human advance. It looked like an entire city was walking toward the Zephyrian positions. Men and women in normal clothes carrying rifles and homemade bombs. Elderly humans pushing wheeled carts full of explosives. Young humans with energy weapons clearly built from captured alien technology. "Sir," Captain Mortek continued, "they are not advancing like an army. They are advancing like a migration, as if the entire human population has decided to walk toward us and fight." The transmission was interrupted by a massive explosion. When the image cleared, Captain Mortek was gone. In his place was a human face. A young human female wearing strange eye coverings and a helmet. "Hello up there," the human said cheerfully. "My name is Sarah Chen. I'm an engineering student from Melbourne. Well, I was before you guys showed up. Now I guess I'm a freedom fighter." Kethvar stared at the screen. "How did you access our communications?" "Oh, that was easy. Your friend here had the comm unit on him when he died. Took me about 10 minutes to figure out how it works. Pretty simple technology, actually. Very inefficient power matrix, though. I could improve the design if you want." "You reverse engineered our communication system in 10 minutes? Like I said, I'm an engineering student, or was. Now I'm the person who just figured out how to hack your entire fleet's communication network." The human smiled. "Want to surrender?" Admiral Kethvar felt something break inside his mind. A young, human student had hacked Zephyrian military technology in 10 minutes and was asking him to surrender. "Admiral," Commander Zixtal whispered, "perhaps we should consider withdrawal." On the screen, the human student was still talking. "Oh, by the way, my little brother Tommy wanted me to tell you something. He's 8 years old, and he built a working plasma cannon out of spare parts from your crashed ships and our dad's welding equipment. He wants to know if you guys want to have a fair fight." The transmission ended. Kethvar stood in silence, finally understanding the truth. The Zephyrian Empire had not just attacked a primitive planet. They had attacked a species that turned everything, including their own children, into weapons. A species that other galactic civilizations feared so much, they had agreed never to fight them. A species that had once fought off the Devourers and won. "Commander," Kethvar said quietly, "prepare the fleet for immediate withdrawal." "Sir?" "We are leaving. Now. Before they decide to follow us home." As the Zephyrian ships began to retreat from Earth's orbit, Kethvar wrote his final report. He recommended that Earth be reclassified from primitive target to galactic threat level maximum. He also recommended that the Emperor who had ordered this invasion be investigated for treason. Because anyone who sent a Zephyrian fleet to attack humans either did not know what humans were, or was trying to destroy the Zephyrian Empire from within. As Earth disappeared behind them, Admiral Kethvar realized he would spend the rest of his life wondering what humans would do now that they knew they were not alone in the galaxy, and hoping they would never decide to visit the Zephyrian homeworld.